session. Today we're talking about the use of SMART in the marine environment in particular, and we are going to have about an hour and a half today with a number of speakers presenting several case studies of use from around the world. But before that, we have a few more introductory presentations around SMART in general, and then what the next steps are going to be. So a little bit of housekeeping first. Please make sure you're muted while the speakers are presenting and through the course of the meeting. You're very welcome to use the chat box at the bottom. We have set time for questions and answers at the end of the session, but feel free to put questions or thoughts or comments into the Q&A as we go, into the chat box as we go. We have a number of representatives from SMART on the call who may be able to help answer your questions via the chat feature, as well as responding to questions towards the end. So in terms of the agenda, we're going to jump straight into a very short overview of what SMART is and how it is used. We're then going to move into a bit of a kind of future looking of what SMART is coming, what's coming with SMART this year, what the future holds, and what SMART will be able to do in the very near future, before we jump into 4 case studies from around the world of different uses of SMART in the marine environment. And there will be time for question and answer at the end of those 6 presentations. We may also have time, if anybody has specific questions about the new plans with SMART, please do drop those questions into the chat box as we go, as the speaker who's presenting on that will not be able to stay till the end of the session, unfortunately. So any specific questions around that, please drop those into the chat as you come up with them so that we can answer them before he has to leave. So that's it. Without further ado, we shall jump straight into Drew Cronin from North Carolina Zoo, and he is going to present an overview of SMART. Drew, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Sophie. And thank you all for joining. It's exciting to see the number of participants continue to go up. I'm going to just give, like Sophie said, a quick overview of SMART and its use, how it's been used sort of generally for marine protected area management. And the first thing we're going to start with is the sort of cornerstone of SMART application. Protected areas, be they terrestrial or marine, are the cornerstone of biodiversity conservation. But globally, only about 24% of those have been found to have sound management. And that's true for terrestrial and marine protected areas. In the recent years, there's been a real expansion of protected areas in terrestrial and marine environments. But coming with that expansion has not been an increase in the efficacy of those sites and the resources devoted to their management. And so often you'll find relatively small staff, numbers of staff that are under-equipped, untrained, lacking a holistic picture of what's happening in the protected area, and they're asked to, basically do the impossible of managing these enormous areas with, limited resources. And so SMART, globally, there's a need to improve protected area management, and SMART was really designed to help with that gap. So SMART, the SMART partnership and the SMART tool was created in 2011. It was first released in 2011, and since then it's become the global leading protected area management tool. It was initially conceived to measure and improve patrol effectiveness, promote accountability and good governance, and to standardize reporting on indicators from the sites, be they threats or wildlife or patrol effort. And like I said, the mission is to improve protected area management effectiveness by empowering the practitioners on the site with technology, services, and skills to better use the available resources. So, conceptually, yes, it's a technology, but SMART has always been much more than that. It's a long-standing partnership of 9 conservation organizations that have committed to this not only development and maintenance of the tool, but making sure that it's free, it's easy to use, there's resources to support the people using it, and it can be used as effectively as possible by folks on the ground doing the work of conservation every day. So basic features, sort of at Smart's core, it's a relational database. It's got really powerful query and summary functions. It's very easy to get data into Smart. It easily integrates with GPS devices and more and more with mobile devices, be the Android or iOS devices. It has built-in mapping and spatial analysis, and you can link those to queries. So you can run your queries, and you can see the outputs, whether either in a table or on a map. You can configure these queries, analyses, and reports to be run in an automated fashion. So that's really lessens the burden of, oh, well, we've got something in a database, we've got to export it to Excel, we've got to manipulate the data, we've got to run analyses in R, and then we're going to drop those into a Word doc. You can do that all in one spot. After you've configured it, it's basically just at the push of a button. So it's a really useful tool for getting analysis and reports quickly from the data and getting them into the hands of people that are making the decisions. And that's I think one of the biggest strengths, is this ability to share information both at the site and then up through decision makers relatively quickly. So, like I said, Smart is designed to help with protected area management. We consider it a holistic protected area management system. It has mobile, desktop, and online platforms, and it's got a really wide range of applications in conservation practice. So the figure you see on the right, the sort of circle figure, each of these are different functionalities that can that help support and facilitate different steps of the adaptive management cycle, which you can see on the left here. And so basically, a typical Smart site kind of looks like this, where rangers or patrollers will go out with mobile devices. They'll collect data in the field. That data can get dumped right into the computer, either over Wi-Fi, over cell, or via wired connection. You have pre-configured analyses and reports that are easy to run, which makes it easier to feedback and evaluate your efforts. To evaluate your efforts and to feed that back to the teams. And then you can make decisions and make plans about how to adapt your strategies on the ground before you go back out into the field and do data collection again. So typically it's been used as a law enforcement monitoring tool, but the flexibility and of the different functionalities has been developed in a way that it actually can be used much more broadly, and we're seeing it used much more broadly. And so we'll see some of that today in today's case studies. This is just a look at some outputs from Smart. These are all from Belize, which Julio Manza will talk about a little bit later in the presentation. But generally speaking, most sites around the world record data on three things. It's threats in the protected area, wildlife in the protected area, and patrol effort. And then this is just, like I said, three examples, or a few examples from Turnef Atoll in Belize. So on the left, you see infractions. Those are just observations. The second one in is, again, observations as well of things that they've seen on patrol. The blue map is a heat map of patrol coverage, looking at where patrols have focused their efforts. And then the last on the right is observations of recreational activities that they've seen. So what does it look like globally? At this point, Smart is used in over 1,000 sites in over 70 countries, and 20 countries have adopted Smart in one way or another for the management of their protected area system. Belize is a really interesting case there, which Julio will speak to, where they've now adapted Smart nationally for both terrestrial and marine protected areas. It's pretty cool. But from relatively humble beginnings back in 2011, it's really grown organically, through word of mouth and through the support of the partnership, and we're seeing this really grow year on year, adding sites and stronger national adoptions. In the marine space, we've seen improved patrol planning at sites. We've seen a reduction in fuel costs because patrol planning has improved. And so they're not wasting as much time. They can really target their patrols. We've seen enhanced reporting of fisheries infractions, improved strategies to combat illegal fishing, definitely increased transparency and accountability, since all of the patrol activities are basically tracked. And what's been really powerful, especially in places like Belize, is you see centralized management of these MPA networks. So lots of different sites, all of the management information can feed back to a central location and can be looked at individually or as a whole. So just to wrap up, SMART has become a really successful platform. It's got a global reach. It continues to be community owned and driven. It is and will always be free. It's supported by a global community, which is really exciting. We've got, I think, over 600 people in the community forum and thousands of users around the world. It can adapt to your organizational needs. It's very customizable. There's a long-term sustainability plan for the technology itself. So, sites should feel comfortable using SMART, knowing that, the software is not going to disappear or be unavailable or not usable on their computer in 2 years. And like you'll hear in the next presentation, we are trying to, as much as possible, maintain a system that works in disconnected, very difficult environments, but can integrate new technologies and new innovations whenever we can to help improve decision-making on the ground. There's, excuse me, lots and lots of partners and supporters for SMART, which are many more than are listed here, but just a quick look of our broader support. And just wrap with a final information. Again, this is being recorded and we'll have this, we can share this information later, but any general questions, those are the information for SMART, and then any questions specifically for me, feel free to reach me at the North Carolina Zoo email. So thank you for your time, and excited to hear the rest of the presentations today.
Great, thank you so much, Drew. A really helpful overview of the power of SMART, really, in terms of its wide applicability. I think just picking up on one of the questions in the chat already, it is very well established in the terrestrial world, but I think that's part of the kind of goal of today's call, is to increase exposure for SMART in the marine environment. So we have a number of case studies in the marine world, but hopefully after today, some of you will feel empowered and enthused to think about using it at your sites as well. So now we're going to jump over to Jonathan Palmer from WCS. He's going to give us a little bit of an overview of what's next in SMART. So Drew's given us a really good, well thought out overview of what SMART does currently, but it is, as he said, constantly evolving, and there are quite a lot of new exciting developments on the horizon. So Jonathan, over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Sophie. So this is a really exciting time for SMART, and this actually is the first time we're presenting the full view of what's coming in SMART 7. Before I talk about SMART 7 and beyond, we have a strong history of innovating within SMART. We were formed 10 years ago. It took us 2 years to get the law enforcement solution up and running. Every single year since then, we've cranked out new features and functionality, whether it was our first integration into mobile with the early cyber tracker, ecological records in 2015, through to getting into cloud services with Smart Connect in 2017, the intelligence plugin in 2018, and there at the bottom, something we were really proud of, we delivered in 2019, which was the Smart Mobile, the really rich, beautiful mobile application we have now. And with that long history, we're now really proud to be announcing to the whole community SMART 7. SMART 7 will be available for public release towards the end of the summer, although we'll be looking actually for a small number of partners to go on what we call a managed release, which is where we support you to deploy it from July onwards. SMART 7 doesn't have one new innovation. It has 4 major innovations plus a range of other improvements. It has predictive patrol planning, which uses heat maps to suggest where patrols may focus their attention. It has Smart Integrate, a really exciting product that will allow us, by the end of this year to bring in 100 different types of field sensors and growing year on year. Profiles is our new functionality that takes this intelligence module and allows you to create almost any kind of database you would dream of, whether it's an infrastructure management module, a module for monitoring individual animals, or anything you could almost dream of monitoring. You can spin up your own little smart database using profiles. Smart Collect is our fourth major innovation this year, and Smart Collect takes the power of smart and puts it into every user, not just your rangers and your employees and your teams, but Smart Collect allows citizen science data collection. It allows you to collect data from tourists. It allows infrastructure managers to collect data, because what it does is allow you to take that power of smart reporting and capture observations outside the context of a patrol or ecological monitoring mission. On top of that, we've enhanced the user experience in Smart, enhanced data collection, and added new features. Predictive patrol planning is one of our headline features for Smart 7. What predictive patrol planning does is it takes all your historical data together with a range of geographic data, whether it's rivers, roads, settlements, rainfall patterns, almost any geographic data you can imagine. It blends it in, feeds it into an artificial intelligence solution that's been built in collaboration with Harvard and Microsoft. And then from there suggests areas to prioritize patrol planning. Smart Integrate, as I mentioned, will have support 100 different data sources by the end of this year. What Smart Integrate does is it takes data from telemetry devices, vehicle trackers, drone devices, almost any kind of sensor you could imagine, not just physical sensors, but also virtual sensors such as systems that process acoustic monitoring devices. It takes all that data, feeds it into a central server that then pushes that out into smart deployments. And what does that give you? That gives you not only a turnkey integration, an integration you can just turn on and use as long as you've got the hardware and you've got things linked into Smart Integrate. It also gives you a solution that's monitored. Your integration, basically, if anything happens for it, we'll know about it before you do, and we'll probably get it fixed before you even know it's gone wrong. It gives you device independence. In the olden days, if you spend a lot of time integrating, let's say, an acoustic sensor, that was expensive, and it meant you had to keep buying that same device because you'd spent a huge amount of money on an integration. With Smart Integrate, any new sensor that comes on, we're going to integrate. And so if you have a set of sensors you're using, and then you want to upgrade to the next model, or you want to go to a different company and use you can do that with Smart Integrate because it will just allow you to mix and match. Smart Integrate is a really exciting product. It's actually built in collaboration with Earth Ranger. It actually allows your data to go over not just into Smart, but you can actually push your data into Earth Ranger or other tools as well. And as with all our solutions, it's free, it's and supported. At the moment, we've completed, this list needs actually updating, we've completed over 20 of 100 integrations. These are all the integrations that are in the pipeline for this year. And we've actually been cranking out more integrations than we expected. So we're pretty confident of reaching that total of 100 integrations by the end of the year. Profiles, this is our third major innovation this year. What Profiles does is allows you to build data models that are relational. So this is not just your typical smart data model that's about collecting observations, but this is where you can talk about people and places, or buildings and roads, or almost anything you could imagine you want to put into a database. You can do that now with Profiles. And our final innovation, and this is one we have to thank the marine community for, is Smart Collect. This is just one of these innovations where as soon as we built it, our first question was, why didn't we do this 10 years ago? What Smart Collect does is it allows you to basically create small mobile apps that you share out publicly or to a limited group to collect any set of observations. So if you have a team that is responsible for maintaining infrastructure, you can create an infrastructure data model, fire that out to Smart Collect. They don't have to be on a patrol. They don't have to have a mandate to collect the data. They just collect their observations. If you want to do a citizen science project, create your data model, push it out to Smart Collect. This is going to be so powerful, and we're so excited about this. And again, what's exciting for this group is this was something that came from the marine community. We had a National Geographic supported project, and one of the things people pointed out was, yes, Smart's fantastic, but not everybody who's collecting data we want to get in Smart is part of our patrol team. And from there, we built Smart Collect. So we're really looking forward to see how this takes off in the year ahead. We've not just been focusing on those 4 big innovations. We've also made a number of improvements. We know people do not want massive changes and have to retrain all their staff, but we know people want us to improve the user experience. So with these larger icons you see at the top and a number of other areas, we've made incremental improvements in the solution to improve the user experience. Mobile data year on year comes up as one of the key areas that people want us to improve. Now, we made a massive improvement last year with Smart Mobile, and we've been just so excited to see how well that's taken off. Based on the feedback we've got in the first year, we've made a number of improvements for Smart Mobile. Again, another feature we wish we'd provided earlier, conditional data entry, the ability to actually define, okay, if I see a boat, I don't have the question, how many wheels does it have? The ability to put things into your data model that allow you to skip questions that are no longer relevant based on the earlier responses people have given. Multi-select, the ability when in a data model to select multiple values, checkboxes in a question. Matrix questions, this is really exciting. So if you have 3 or 4 dimensions, if you're looking to record not only, you know, which people have you captured or caught in a poaching event, but which individual weapons they were carrying and how many weapons they were carrying, rather than having you fill out lots and lots of observations. Matrix questions give you a table to fill out those responses in. Up until recently, you always needed to connect your mobile to your computer to load that data model. And that was problematic because you always have problems with cables, with different pieces of hardware having slightly different interactions with your computers. It was also problematic because some people want to take their data model without going back to the headquarters. They might be in a remote location. Now you can, with Smart Connect and Smart 7, you can wirelessly download your data model. Everything you can do on your mobile, you can do wirelessly. Another small but really important change, and again, another one that came from the marine team, was the ability to record observations at a distance and bearing. It kind of made sense when we were focused on marine to say, okay, well, if you make an observation and it's not where you are, just walk over and take the coordinates. You can't do that in marine. You can't walk over to the next boat and take its coordinates. And so adding the observation and distance was something critical for marine. Another feature we've added is the ability to record signatures within Smart Mobile and audio capture. It now runs on iOS, on iPhones as well as Android, and we've enhanced the mapping. There are a number of other highlights, and we'll be publicizing these through the community forum. We'll be providing training. There will be videos. There will be a lot more to brief the community as we start moving out towards the launch. But included in Smart 7 is also enhancements to connect maps. So the online maps will not only allow you to view alerts, they will allow you to view all your smart data. Any query you have, you'll actually be able to share in an online map together with your desktop mapping you already use. We've enhanced the reporting to support additional summary functions, additional group wise. For any observation you make, you can record who was the observer, and you can set up employee teams. So if you have a team that's going out week on week, you don't have to set them up as a new team each time you do a patrol. You can set up an employee team. So with that, I hope you all can see Smart 7 is our most exciting release. For the first year, we're not producing one major innovation, we're producing 4 major innovations this year and a raft of additional features. We're on our way already to start building Smart 8, and we're beginning to having conversations about Smart 9. But what's really exciting is we've begun the discussion around what's called Smart X. we expect within about 3 or 4 years to revolutionize Smart once again and do a major platform upgrade. And so over the next year or two, while rolling out Smart 7 and building Smart 8, we'll also begin a dialogue with the community about Smart X. So thank you for your time today. I hope you all see that we're going to continue with our history of innovating, making sure we deliver a suite of tools that include innovations that range from powerful AI to the things that are really critical to our front users, like improving mobile data collection and adding new features like Smart Collect that really improve the capacity and capability of our users on the ground. So thank you all.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Jonathan, and some very exciting times ahead. It's probably worth saying that Drew and I co-lead the Marine Task Force within the Smart Partnership. So some of the new innovations that Jonathan was talking about have come through a number of different task forces, of which there is a marine one. So any specific marine operation that you feel is missing as you implement it in your sites, please feel free to reach out to us and we can support a work to try and address that where feasible. There's just one question that's coming on the chat around Smart Collect. Jonathan, I wonder if you can respond to that. So with regards to the citizen science element of Smart Collect, are there set citizen science protocols that you're recommending to allow comparisons across sites or to enhance other widely used global citizen science programs?
Cool. Very, 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 very good question. So, you know, I think it's early days for us here with Smart. You know, Smart generally has an approach of not being prescriptive and leaving it to the community to identify what our best practices. So we don't have a raft of case studies around citizen science and Smart, simply because up until now it's not been possible. So really we're at the start of that journey, and figuring that out will be something that we figure out with the community. So in summary, you know, no, we don't have any standard protocols. Where it's valuable to have protocols, it will be up to the community. It will be groups like the Smart Marine Group to figure out whether they adopt an existing protocol, recommend a protocol, or encourage diversity according to need. But I think that's something for this team to figure out.
Great, thanks, Jonathan. Another question around, I've lost it. Will we be able to import an alert in a table, as in an XY format, into the alert or intelligence in Smart 7?
So the question there is, can someone basically import like a CSV?
Yes.
So there is Smart does have a CSV import. Because we have the custom data model, there's a bit of work to get that up and running. So I think if someone has a CSV import question, a specific question, take it to the community forum, and you know we'll help you figure out the solution there. Hopefully it's something we can easily accommodate. If it's not, we will work on it as an improvement for the future. Great.
And then another one about alerts, I guess linking to integrate. So can we receive a deforestation alert table from a mangrove forest? Can we import that whole table into Smart, or would we need to do it one by one?
So for deforestation alerts, we've actually got some really exciting news there. So we're working with Global Forest Watch and others to integrate their alerts, and so all the sort of deforestation alerts that are available into Smart Integrate. But we're not only doing that in the way you do today with apps like Forest Watcher, where you download and see all the alerts, because we've seen that there are some locations where you get not one alert or two alerts, but maybe 1,000 alerts in one day. We're pulling that data in, but then we're also processing it into hotspots. And so you will get, for example, if you had 1,000 alerts happening in an area, you would get one integrate with a count, or one alert with a count of 1,000. So we hope pretty much all the kind of different deforestation alerts and fire alerts, people would imagine, are going to be coming through Smart Integrate. It is an open platform, and so if there are other alerting systems, let us know about it, and we're going to work to integrate them.
Great, thanks. Let's one more question, and then we'll move on to the case studies. So there's been a couple of questions around connectivity and using Smart in offline or kind of data poor in terms of internet connectivity environments. This one specifically is data collection from remote areas without internet available in Smart 7, and will Smart Connect work without the internet?
Good, two very good questions. So since its inception, since 2014, 2015, when we started mobile data collection, we always supported offline data collection, and that's true today. That any single data you collect can be collected offline. In fact, the default of Smart Mobile and Smart Collect is to collect your data offline, and then when it gets connectivity to upload that data, and that's going to continue. Smart Connect is our server application. You don't need that. So if you're in an environment where you're totally offline and you have a single desktop in your HQ and you use mobile in the field and you bring those back to the headquarters, you can run without Smart Connect. If you need a web application or server application, Smart Collect is something that you can run on a local server if you want, or you can run on the internet. We encourage people to use cloud deployments of Smart Connect just simply because it's cheaper, more secure, and it's supported. But again, if you need to run Smart Connect off the internet, it can certainly be done that way.
Great, thank you so much. I think we're going to move on to our case studies now, but some really great questions coming in on the chat, and some of the Smart Partnership team are responding to those, so do keep an eye on the chat. And we'll also have to, we will also collate all the questions that are coming through and send through some notes afterwards, so you'll have access to some of that. So the 4 case studies are hopefully quite a nice broad representation of sites that are at different stages of implementing Smart. We've asked them to try and focus on some of the challenges and lessons learned from those implementations. And then some of them are also talking about kind of that next stage of what else Smart can do beyond patrol planning. So first of all, we're going to go to the Philippines. Unfortunately, the speaker has pre-recorded her presentation because of the time difference is quite late. But Franz Garcia is a technical specialist for community conservation, working on community MPAs for 5 years. So I've got a pre-recorded presentation to show you about the implementation of Smart in the Philippines. And then we are joined by a UK-based colleague from ZSL Coast for Sea, Gildas Andrew Malala, who will be around for the Q&A. So let me just share the video. Here we go.
Hello and good day. I am Franz Garcia. I am a technical specialist for Coast for Sea, which is a spin-off of ZSL's Networks team. Coast for Sea is a social enterprise that aims to build Asia's leading regenerative seaweed enterprise benefiting communities, commerce, conservation, and climate. Coast for Sea is bringing with it the ideal marine protected area approach, which combines establishment of large no-take areas within MPAs with inclusive business and livelihood to ensure social and financial sustainability of MPAs. I will be sharing today the experience of Philippines and the application of spatial monitoring and reporting tool in marine setting. Actually, our application of Smart is fairly new, although the Philippine government through the Department of Environment and Natural Resources is already using Smart for forest and biodiversity protection. It was in 2018 when some ZSL staff in the Philippines were trained, but we were able to download the technology to one of our sites in March 2019. Smart Marine in the Philippines started in the municipality of Concepcion, which is located in the northeast portion of Panay Island. It is a third-class municipality that shares the Visayan Sea with other Visayan provinces. Concepcion has more than 94,000 hectares of municipal waters. Of its 25 villages, 18 are along the coast, with 11 villages located in the islands. With this geographical detail, Concepcion is highly dependent on the ocean to, to provide food and livelihood to most of its communities. To date, there are 14 community-managed marine protected areas in the municipality, and 3 of which were established and managed through the IMPA approach. These 3 IMPAs are also the largest within the municipality, with sizes ranging from 573 to 900 hectares and with at least 200 hectares of no-take zone in each site. Concepcion was chosen as the pilot site because of ZSL's history of working with the local municipal government and with the local communities. The networks project instituted in Concepcion was expanded to include mangrove rehabilitation and MPA establishment. Social infrastructures for conservation, such as the village savings and loan associations, were established and formed part of MPA management councils. ZSL also supported the capacity building of MPA management and enforcement teams through development of coastal resource plans, MPA management plans, and various trainings. Smart in Concepcion was designed to support effectiveness of patrolling and enforcement of MPA and fishery regulations in the municipality, and the strengthening of enforcement team or structures that are already established. So prior to the downloading of technology, some preconditions had to be met and assessed together with the municipal government. Among these preconditions are the constant patrolling of Bantay Dagat or the enforcers at the municipal level, the constant patrolling of fish wardens at the village level, the presence of an approved municipal enforcement plan, clear enforcement protocols on patrolling, apprehension, and other enforcement procedures, and clear operational structures and delineation of responsibilities of the different enforcement structures. During the training conducted in March 2019, the Concepcion Conservation Area was defined. It encompasses the whole 94,000 hectares of municipal waters and included the boundaries of the established ideal marine protected areas. The SMART team composition was firmed up, and the administrators, managers, analysts made up the technical team and composed mainly by representatives from the municipal government and its agencies. The Bantay Dagat, or the municipal enforcers, fish wardens, and MPA enforcement team members acted as the patrollers for the SMART team. ZSL provided the SMART team with a computer and 10 smartphones with the Cyber Tracker app. And of course, an implementation plan was developed together with the SMART team. But in 2019, local elections happened in the Philippines, and a new municipal mayor was elected to office in Concepcion. We are very fortunate that the new municipal mayor is equally supportive of ZSL's programs and intervention. But as the new municipal mayor occupied the municipal government, some non-regular personnel were let go and new personnel were hired. Included in the personnel that were let go were members of the SMART technical team that was formed in March. So another set of technical team had to be formed, and another round of training was conducted in October 2019. And during the last day of the training, the patrollers were invited and had a refresher course on using the Cyber Tracker application. The implementation plan that was developed in March was also reviewed during the last day of the training. So from March 2019 until up to now, up to the present, and with regards to the challenges in implementing Smart Marine in the Philippines, report generation is still an issue, although the patrollers were able to use their Cyber Tracker phones in gathering data. And to say, we have yet to maximize really the smart technology for adaptive management and enforcement of marine protected areas. The pandemic also made it more difficult to convene the SMART team, and even for ZSL to continuously coach and mentor the SMART team. But there are also opportunities for SMART implementation in the Philippines. In Concepcion, for example, the local government is supporting the volunteer fish wardens by providing them monetary allowance, and they are looking for ways how to identify active fish wardens that are deserving of the incentive. So we presented SMART as a possible solution, and this could further inspire the patrollers to be more active in data generation. There is also a great buy-in for the technology, not just in conception, but for other LGUs that ZSL are working with. They recognize the potential of SMART in enhancing their enforcement capacities. With regards to learning, with what happened with the first SMART team trained by ZSL in conception, we think it is important to include in the technical team government personnel that have regular positions, because we cannot really afford to be always forming and training new sets of technical teams. Also, one of the missteps is the immediate turnover of analysis and management to the local government. It would have been more effective if the ZSL in-house SMART team handled it for a brief period before fully turning over the management and analysis of data to the formed technical team in the local government. Lastly, with the current travel restrictions, remote data submission and management can be explored, including the use of Smart Connect, which is not one of the options that we considered during the original training of SMART in conception. Right now, ZSL and Coast4C is planning to replicate SMART in 2 other sites. One is in the municipality of Ahoy in Iloilo, and another in the municipality of Telebon, which is in Bohol. Ahoy municipality is actually adjacent to Concepcion, and downloading of SMART technology to this site will ensure coverage of the Concepcion Ahoy base cape, where ZSL is actively working. Talibon is part of the Nahon Bank area, and also with a long history of working with ZSL through the networks and IMPA projects. But we are considering limiting the scope of SMART implementation because of the pandemic and because of the capacity of ZSL to work in all of the barangays of the municipality. So we would like to concentrate in the villages or in the barangays where we have active presence as ZSL and as Coast4C. So that's it. And if you have any more questions, my colleague Gildas Andre Malala is present to accommodate them. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, friends. That was fabulous. And as she has mentioned, we do have somebody from ZSL on the call today who can take any questions that you might have at the end. Really interesting, I think, to pick up on some of those lessons learned around making sure the government has the capacity to follow through on an implementation, which I think is something that is probably quite challenging elsewhere as well. So now we're going to jump to Belize, if the presentation is ready, as I know we were having some technical issues earlier. So we're going to hear from Julio Manza, who works for WCS in Belize. And he's going to talk us through some of the next steps of what SMART can do. They are using Smart Connect and also looking at some VMS integrations. So Julio, over to you if you're still here.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's perfect.
Hi, good morning. I'm Julio Manza. I come from one of the earlier users of SMART. I've been using SMART since the initial deployment of SMART 1.1. And I've been working in Belize and in the Caribbean region for over 10 years using SMART. We've tried many of the features of SMART, and we can see that we are very happy with the results in terms of it making the management of protected areas more efficient. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to share with you a live demo of our Smart Connect instance. Unfortunately, for some reasons where I am, my network is not allowing me to access my Smart Connect instance. But generally, I should be able to do it from wherever, no? But just to give you an idea of what we do is that a Smart Connect instance allow me to manage a whole slew of conservation areas from one location. And I would have loved to show you that right now, but because it's not fully functional, I don't want to really go into that because it'll take a lot of time from the presentation. So what I want to jump into is and I'm going to explain how this integrates with Smart Connect. We're currently looking at vessel monitoring with satellite technology in Belize, and we're using this type of equipment with a panic button and a unit that is satellite enabled to track fishing vessels in Belize. If I'm not mistaken, it's one of the only we are one of the only countries in the world that is using satellite-based technology for tracking small-scale fishing vessels. And when I talk about small-scale fishing vessels, I'm talking about vessels that are about 3 meters in length up to 5 meters in length. And they're not really big. They don't have independent power, and therefore tracking them can become very difficult. We're using a technology that's an IP67 rugged device. It allows us for two-way communication, and it has an SOS button for emergency. And this is a new technology that we're trying to get fishermen to use, because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is provide them with a service while at the same time be able to better patrol the fishery areas. We have a monitoring platform, which is really nice, but one of the difficulties that we will have as we go expanding with the VMS is that we will be forced to bring in different types of vessel monitoring systems, because we really wouldn't be able to tell our owner, you know what, this is the unit that you have to buy. If another company is able to provide that type of service, we'll have to be able to accommodate that, right? And so that is where we feel that the Smart Connect will be able to assist us in integrating the different types of vessel monitoring systems that exist into our platform for easier management. Some features of our smart system include Stamper Alert, SOS for safety issues at sea. We have low battery levels, so we are able to alert the owners that their battery on their units are dying. And we get a position every 15 minutes, and this is satellite-based, so we don't really have to worry whether we have data reception or not from cellular coverage. The data is accessible via emails or an online platform. It is real-time, and we also have the capability of doing geofencing. So if a vessel is in an area that it shouldn't be, we will get an alert that the vessel has entered the location. With this system, we have a 24/7 monitoring center. That center is responsible for the coordination with all the local responders to ensure that safety of life at sea is maintained at all times. We have qualified and trained staff. We've been working very much with the government of Belize to ensure that their teams are always on the ready to provide assistance to the mariners. And also, once a distress signal has received and we're not able to locate the vessel, then a distress call is sent via the emergency radio line to all mariners so that they can be on the lookout for the vessel. On how we manage this is that we have a network of over 16 ranger stations and conservation outposts that provide the support, and they coordinate the operations. And what we've seen is that we have an improved response time. Response has actually been near real time with the fisher folk having emergencies. We've been in this year we were able to rescue about 35 fishermen that were unfortunately robbed out at sea. There was a piracy incident that was occurring, and we had in the period of about 2 weeks 5 vessels that were robbed. And so by having the VMS system and the network functional, we're able to rescue those fishermen. And it has also reduced the cost for search and rescue. We don't have to pay as much in terms of searching for vessels because we know exactly where they are. And for sustainable fisheries purposes, we have been able to track where the fishermen are fishing. We know exactly that if they're abiding or not by the regulations for the licenses. We're able to geofence, as I mentioned. It's easier for enforcement, planning, and monitoring, and we have better knowledge of the fishing grounds. These are some of the photographs that we took during the installation of the vessel monitoring system. Thus far, we have about 85 vessels using the vessel monitoring system, and we're looking to expand and to upgrade our system currently. One second. I just need to get out of this so that I can show you the vessel monitoring system. Can you see my dashboard right now?
Yes, we can.
Monica? Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the vessel monitoring system. And again, as I said, this is from one service provider. I have an online platform, but the idea would be that we would be able to push all of this information into Smart Connect so that we can receive the alerts real time in Smart Connect, and it doesn't matter which user we are using. So we can be using an Emersat, we can be using Iridium, we can be using Spot Trace, whatever system we're using, it wouldn't really matter, because through the Smart Integrate, we will try to pull this information into the Smart platform so that even if we're using 5 or 7 service providers, the alerts that we receive will all go into the Smart Connect. At least that is the vision that we have, and we think we can get it done. As you can see here, I have a dashboard that tells me exactly where the vessels are. At Ayari right now, it's at home port. I can look at different information for this vessel. Right, so I can get more information of the vessel. I can get a history of the vessel. I know who the owner is. I have a phone number for the vessel owner. I know the battery level. It's fully charged, and I'm getting alerts right now where I am. And so I have information of the vessels, and what we anticipate is that we'll be able to map this with our smart patrols to ensure that the patrol vessels are going where the fishing vessels are. If they're not going where the fishing vessels are, then it probably doesn't make sense for them to be out patrolling. And as I was saying, we can track the fishing vessels, but the idea would be how do we use Smart and the vessel monitoring system to be able to better enforce our fishing grounds? How do we ensure that the patrols are being effective? With that said, thank you very much for the opportunity to present. We love Smart, and we're looking forward to the implementation of Smart 7. I'm hoping Jonathan will pick us to test and that we are able to then share our experience with the rest of the globe.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Julio. Always fascinating to hear you talk, and I think the work you're doing in Belize is a real testament to the value that Smart brings, and fantastic to see you're already thinking about integrations and bringing in that VMS data. So that's fantastic. Now we're going to go to Bangladesh, also WCS. So Zangir Alam is going to talk to us about the implementation of Smart in the Sundarbans, a mangrove protected area in Bangladesh. So Zangir, if you're ready, you can
please provide me power to share the screen.
Oh. I think you should be able to do it now because Julio stopped. Do you want to try? There we go. Yes. Perfect. We can see it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sophie. Hi. Welcome you all to my session. I'm Jahangir Alam from Bangladesh. I work for WCS Bangladesh as a country representative, and I lead the Smart and Terrestrial program in Bangladesh. Just to let you know that we are working in Bangladesh since 2004. And beside having our 27 local motivated team members, we are also working with a network of trained interns from different universities, community members, and also NGO partners. After conducting landmark survey in the first decades of 21st century, we established Bangladesh as a global hotspot for some of the world's most threatened dolphins and whales. We partnered with the Bangladesh Forest Department to lead some major conservation accomplishments, such as declaration of country's first 3 freshwater dolphin sanctuaries in Sundarbans in 2012, and the first marine protected area in Swatch of No Ground in 2014. And we also partnered with the Department of Fisheries in the demarcation and declaration of Nizumdeep Marine Protected Area in 2019. One priority of WCS Bangladesh has been to support the implementation of smart patrol for strengthening wildlife conservation, wildlife enforcement and monitoring in the marine and terrestrial protected areas. WCS Bangladesh provided support to the Forest Department to introduce smarts in the 3 freshwater dolphin sanctuaries in 2014 and to expand smart across the Sundarbans in 2016. We prioritize the Sundarbans because it is the world's largest mangrove forest with an area of 10,000 square kilometers. About 60% lies in Bangladesh and the rest in India. And Sundarban includes a UNESCO World Heritage Site and also Ramsar Site. And Sundarban supports high level of biodiversity, including globally threatened tigers, freshwater dolphins, river terrapin, vultures, and musk finfoot, and locally threatened estuarine crocodiles. And the more importantly, more than 3 million people living in the 10-kilometer wide buffer zone of Sundarbans directly or indirectly depend on natural resources from Sundarbans. And Sundarban also provide critical ecosystem service and nursery ground for fisheries and crustaceans, and also provide protection from extreme storm. Till today, we trained actually about 400 forest staff, which is about half of the total forest staff in Sundarbans, on the smart patrolling and data collection. We provided about 300 days of onboard mentoring to the smart patrol teams on the use of GPS for navigation, use of cyber tracker for smart data collection, law enforcement, and educational outreach in the Sundarbans. We also mentored to the forest officers who are working in the smart team to achieve the target of 25% foot patrolling in the Sundarbans, because foot patrolling is very vital for detecting wildlife traps, snares, and poachers. Mentoring also provide a platform to better understand the challenges faced by the frontline staff during patrolling. Besides helping in smart implementation, we tried to make the smart sustainable in the Sundarbans. We established a smart enforcement committee chaired by the Conservator of Forest, Khulna. He is in charge of the total Sundarbans, and also all the divisional forest officers and range officers from Sundarban are the member of this enforcement committee. And whenever they conduct the meeting, all the team leaders take participation in that meeting and provide their inputs. We developed a local smart data model and configured data model for cyber tracker and a comprehensive smart training curriculum for Sundarban. We also developed a smart handbook and a smart operating procedure. Both of these are officially endorsed by the government, and they are using this in the Sundarbans. We provided TOT training to 57 forest officers on smart patrolling, and also we trained 21 forest officers on smart reporting, data analysis, etc. This slide showing some of the results from patrols in the Sundarbans from June 2016 to April 2021. During these 6 years of time, more than 285,000 linear kilometer waterways were patrolling during more than 37,000 hours over 2,232 days of time. During these 6 years of patrolling, the Forest Department staff made more than 53,000 sightings of 23 key wildlife species selected for long-term ecological monitoring. These sightings include about 3,000 Ganges River dolphin and 2,000 Irrawaddy dolphin sightings, as well as 37 tiger sightings in Sundarbans. They also recorded 260 tiger park marks and carcasses of 10 spotted deer, 5 wild boar, 5 water monitor, and Batagor turtles too. From the 6 years, they have arrested about 1,500 people for committing illegal activities and seized 4 tiger teeth from them, more than 1,600 boats, about 5,000 illegal fishing gears, 4,052 cutting tools, and thousands of hunting traps and snares, and 3 guns. Just to be noted that Forest Department is also exercising smart patrols outside the Sundarbans in other 13 protected areas of Bangladesh from 2019 to learn how to implement smart in the terrestrial environment. And you know, Sundarban is a mangrove forest and swamp area. During the beginning stage, we analyzed 7 months of patrolling data from June to December in 2016, and we found that there were 177 people arrested, and 100% of them were fishers. About 2/3 of them had illegal fishing, had legal fishing permit, but committed offenses. We also conducted interview surveys among forest officers working in Sundarbans and found that their knowledge on laws and rules in the Sundarbans was limited. So to increase the knowledge and communication skill of forest staff and improve the compliance with fisheries regulations in the Sundarbans among permitted fishermen, we developed an educational outreach initiative called Fish for Future, Playing by the Rules. Under the Fish for Future, Playing by the Rules initiative, we conducted 8 TOT training on fisheries laws and rules for the 73 officers from all permit issuing forest stations in the Sundarbans. We conducted 2 half-day seminars for 34 senior forest officials to increase their understanding about fisheries rules in Sundarbans. And we conducted 12 educational exhibitions with interactive play stations in 8 bordering villages to the Sundarbans to increase compliance with fisheries rules. We also produced and disseminated 12,000 waterproof pouches with a fish ruler, who is clarifying size and gear regulation, fish calendar depicting seasonal restrictions, and among fishers, they disseminated this among fishers when they provide permit during the fish throughout the year. To improve conservation of prospects of marine megafauna through effectively managed marine protected area, we plan to introduce smart patrols in the country's 2 MPAs, that is Swatch of No Ground, which encompasses 1,738 square kilometers, and Nizumdeep, which encompasses 3,188 square kilometer area. We also plan to introduce SMART in the proposed St. Martin Marine Protected Area, encompassing an area of 1,043 square kilometer. We had a plan for an international workshop on smart marine in Bangladesh on October 2020, but due to COVID-19 pandemics, we had to postpone it, and upon overcoming the situation, we will organize it again. We are working with the government agencies now to develop a management plan for the Swatch of No Ground. And we have a plan to integrate actually the smart component in that management plan. Under the leadership of Forest Department and the Department of Fisheries, a joint effort is needed to patrol and monitor marine protected areas in Bangladesh. The flexibility of the smart software opens up a strong potential for use Navy and Coast Guard patrols for illegal fisheries that entangle and kill marine mammals, as well as community monitoring of MPA effectiveness. After the cyclone Sidor in 2007, we established a citizen scientist fishermen safety network among coastal fishers and maintaining it to the present. Members of this network are trained and equipped with a handheld GPS, and they are using it for navigation, GPS equipped camera and sampling datasheet for recording information on their targeted and non-targeted catches, bycatches, and marine megafauna sightings. to make data collection easy and faster and make the easy transfer of data, it is strongly recommended to move from a paper-based data collection system to a handheld or a smartphone data collection system using CyberTracker. The flexibility and use friendliness of Smart make it an ideal application for this type of data collection as well as MPA monitoring needs. So we plan to integrate the use of Smart into the citizen science fishermen safety network. Okay, this is my last slide with some recommendation for the Bangladesh as well as worldwide. For all sites, we think it is essential to ensure adequate training and mentoring on smart patrolling and data management. Develop a national strategy for smart enforcement and monitoring patrols across the country's protected areas, wherever it is marine or terrestrial. Develop a standard operating procedure for both marine and terrestrial side of the country. Build a central database for all smart sites in the country. Provide mentoring to site managers on adaptive management. Provide mentoring to smart patrol team and data manager on the use of GPS, on the use of devices, data collection and patrolling, generating report, preparing recommendation, and provide feedback to the patrol team during their next patrol. And also need to engage resource users in smart monitoring and share results through educational outreach programs so that people from the community can learn what is the value of their input in smart monitoring. Thank you all for attentive listening. And I think I have finished my presentation within the time. Thanks again.
Great, many thanks, Sangir. It's fabulous to hear about the evolution of SMART in Bangladesh. It's clearly been a useful tool for a number of years, and really great to hear that you're progressing into citizen science as well. So hopefully SMART 7 will be of real value to you guys. Moving on, we've got our final case study. Last but not least, we will go to Turkey. The original speaker is unfortunately unable to join, but we will be joined by Yanka Tandakiolu, who will be speaking instead. Yanka, are you there? Can't see you. Hopefully she's there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. All right. So whenever you're ready to share your screen, we can see your slides, and the floor is yours to talk about SMART application in Turkey, please.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah, that looks great.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. My name is Yanka. Today I'm going to present you the SMART in Turkey, Marine Ranger Patrols and Monitoring, a Mediterranean Conservation Society. And we have been implementing the Marine Ranger system in the Gökova Bay since 2013. And the MPA of the Gökova Bay is 278 kilometers squares, and it was officially announced as Special Environmental Protected Area in 1980. Here in this map, you can, the blue dots represent our stations. The red lines represent the Special Environmental Protected Areas. The green areas represent the fisheries restricted area, the no fishing zones, and the lined areas represent the no industrial fishing zones. It was announced new no fishing zones in Gökova, Datçaburun here, Gökova Bay, Bozburun, Fethiye Göcek, you can see here, and Kaş-Gökova with a notification about fisheries restricted areas in 2020, which is in last year. So we have started to implement the Endangered Landscape Program, the ELP project in these areas. Some part of these areas are restricted to amateurs or professionals separately. Professionals in the traditional fisheries, and some part of these areas are restricted to both. The total number of no professional fishing area is 148 kilometers squares, and no amateur fishing area is 62 kilometers squares. no trawling areas is 428 kilometers squares, and no perseining area is 584 kilometers squares. Here are Marine Ranger system. What is it? The Marine Ranger system monitor illegal fishing throughout operational area, and project includes relevant public institutions, research institutions, universities, fisheries cooperatives, and non-governmental organizations, which aim to increase threatened fish stocks, protect sensitive breeding areas, protect spawning areas, and ensure sustainability of coastal fishing. And Marine Rangers convey the information they gathered from the inspections to the relevant public institutions, working like a support team for these. We have been implementing the Marine Ranger system since 2013, and the success for conservation of the site soon showed that significant increases in fish began to be observed in the area. Akeka Fisheries Cooperative declared that by the end of 2016, incomes increased by 400%, which is 80% for the dollar, and compared to 2010 when the areas were declared. 6 marine rangers and 3 area managers work for this marine ranger system. 6 speedboats and 2 vehicles are used. Protect and monitor over 700 kilometers squares of our network area. And now patrolling. Depending to the weather conditions, 6 marine rangers patrol every day and evening. But the schedule of the patrolling is subject to change every day depending to the weather conditions and denunciation of the illegal activities. Average rangers boat 20-day patrols per month. In this map, we can see the patrolling numbers until now. From blue to red, we can see the number of patrol value, and here you can see the you can see the black dots show the illegal activity which are detected during patrolling by the marine rangers. The reason of only Gökova Bay is on the map is because we have just started patrolling in other MPAs. Now, the advantages of SMART. We can calculate average fuel consumption of boats. Areas of management we need to focus on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis can be identified. Habitats of critical species can be identified, like you can see here, the sea turtle, Mediterranean monk seals, otter, and etc. And we regularly share monthly reports with authorized institutions. Here you can see one of our marine ranger. And what are the challenges for us? Since SMART is not an official practice of the state, it can be difficult to get accepted as evidence. And our areas have expanded, and that is why GSM operators are not run some areas. And having to open and close when going to different no-fishing zones on a patrol. For example, our station is in Akeka, and when our marine ranger starts from Akeka, but they need to go to the Akbük, these are different marine protected areas. It says the SMART count number of patrolling 2, while actually it is 1. And the Coast Guards want the photos taken to have information such as coordinates and time. Here you can see the annual patrolling report, annual assessment. We can look at this table actually. We can look at the total numbers. Total number of patrols is 671. You can see the distance covered in terms of kilometers. It's more than 7,000. And the total time in terms of hours, it's more than 1,000. Here we can see the monthly assessments, number of patrols, distance covered, and number of patrol hours. In 2020, most patrols were made in September and December. That's why, because in Akeka, in Gökova Bay, the weather conditions, wind is changing and very strong, but in September and December, it's not strong so much. Yeah, these are our monthly assessments. Thank you for listening. this is the end of my presentation.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much, Yanka. A really whistle-stop
you.
tour of the work in Turkey. That was fascinating.
Thank
and
you.
Great to also see an example of the reports that SMART can produce. I think that's helpful for other people to be aware of. That is.
I can stop.
Sorry, go ahead.
Share screen.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we've got a couple of questions in the chat for some of our speakers. Do feel free to add additional questions in the chat as you think of them, and we'll do our best to get the panel to respond to them. So first of all, one for Zangir around, I guess, whether WCS has any plans to roll out SMART more widely in any of the existing MPAs or proposed MPAs in Bangladesh.
Yep, Sophie, we are actually on the way to do so. We are planning, and we had a plan actually. I mentioned in the presentation that in 2020 October, we could do a workshop in Bangladesh with the people from this Asian region, but due to the COVID, we could not do that. And we have ongoing projects under which we are preparing the local data model for SMART, especially the Nizumdeep one. And we are preparing a management plan for swatch of no ground, marine protected area. And under that one also, we will incorporate SMART. And we think that in long term, maybe within year 1 or next 2, we will be able to implement SMART in these areas. And for doing this, actually, as the Forest Department in Bangladesh is the lead authority for the wildlife protection, but they will need support from Navy, Coast Guard, and also Fisheries Department to implement SMART outside of the forest to the river. They are custodian of wildlife, but they have no logistic support for going to the sea to protect the animals. So once we have a joint collaborative effort for conducting this patrolling in the open ocean, then I think there will be a good situation in terms of conserving our marine megafaunas, and we are looking forward to that.
Great, thank you. A question for Julio from WWF Italy. A question about the case study in Belize. Were the fishers willing to have that control tool on the boat? And if not, how did you overcome that problem? So I guess thinking about the VMS, but this is maybe a broader question for SMART in general to the speakers today, if there were any concerns from fishers that they are getting more scrutiny and surveillance. Is Julio still here? Julio, are you still here? Or have we lost him? I think we might have lost him. Would anybody else like to speak to that point of, I guess, how the fishers respond to SMART as a tool and the digitalization control process?
I can just quickly, I do not have firsthand experience, but just having spoken with Julio when we were in the sort of infancy of the ideas around SMART Collect, was that the way that there was some initial hesitation, but the way that they overcame that was couching the approach more in like the safety of the fishers and providing them the SOS tool as opposed to collecting the data. The data collection and tracking was more sort of a byproduct of them having the ability to, you know, quickly send an SOS and know that there was that added element of safety when they were out on the water. So it was much more of an approach of, you know, we're here to help you. And while we're helping you, can you collect us this data, these data, as opposed to sort of, we need you to collect data as a starting point.
Great.
I would also like to add a little bit with Drew. In Bangladesh, though, our citizen scientist fishermen safety network are not doing smart, but they are collecting data on marine megafaunas while they are setting their net. Actually, this network has two sides. One is that by getting training from WCS and using the GPS for navigation, and also the other equipments like the cameras, and also using of a data set to record data with pen and paper. They learn that how they can safely navigate during the storm, because our country is every year many times storms attack, and many people, many fishers usually get die. So if they know how to safely travel by following the track line to their safe place or to their home, they can quickly actually travel to their home. And also, on the other hand, when there is fog or nighttime or heavy rain, they can also use the GPS for safe traveling from sea to their port. By doing this, they are getting benefited, and also their fuel is saving by traveling quickly, as they know the travel route. And on the other hand, the marine mammals are getting benefited, as when there is any entanglement, especially live entanglement, they are cutting their net to safe release of the animals. And for WCS Bangladesh, we are getting data throughout the year, because we cannot do as any survey except winter season, that is December and January. So outside of those 2-3 months, fishermen are going to the sea and they are collecting the data, and we have now a huge data, healthy data set for Bangladesh. We now know about the like more about the oceans, and also we recently discovered a whale, a new species in our sea, new species of Bangladesh, that was actually came from the photos taken by fishermen. So we identified that species from their photographs. So there are huge potential in Bangladesh, and as they are willingly providing the data, we think once we get them on board with the smart, we'll have more information and systematic information and quicker information from them. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Sanjay. There've been a couple of questions around kind of accessibility of SMART and the languages it's available in, and how it can be applied in low literacy places. So there have been responses in the chat, but just in case you've missed them, not all languages are currently available, but there is a very wide range of languages that SMART is available in, including Arabic, Chinese, French, Georgian, Hindi, Indonesian, Khmer, Lao, Malay, Mongolian, Russian, Spanish, Thai, Vietnamese. And that's what the SMART software has been translated into. Portuguese and Swahili are also on the way. But it's also worth noting that when you are building your configurable data model within SMART, you can translate it into other languages at that stage. So it's still possible if you have, for example, an English, French or Spanish speaker that can manage the database, you can still have the data collection in your local language. And equally, there are options to use icons or the more local language option in the configurable data model. So it has been designed to be as accessible as possible. And the SMART Partnership are always interested to hear of any other language requests that you may have, and can try to work with you to get that translation up and running where feasible.
Yeah, just quick, wanted to add something. So in case it wasn't clear from what I dropped in, if there is a language that you want to have the SMART translated into, reach out to the partnership, and it's not really too complicated. We'll work with you to do that. You'll get sent some files, and then you just, go through and sort of translate line by line the different things. And then we can have that, we'll have that integrated into SMART on our end. So certainly if you have the technical capacity within any of your teams to do sort of basic translation, like basic software translation, there's really no barrier to getting SMART translated into the local language at your site.
Great, thanks, Drew. Janka, a couple of questions for you. So the first one is, have we calculated fuel consumption of those patrols during the planning? So have we been able to see any changes in fuel consumption as a result of the smart patrols?
Oh yes, I was writing special
Okay.
to the who were asking. Actually, it's obligatory to us reporting these fuel consumption, for example, to our harbor master. So the answer is yes. We have to.
And have you
I
seen
saw another question. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to ask, have you seen a change in your fuel consumption since you implemented SMART?
We can see it from the screen on our boats, you know. We can calculate the change of the fuel. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then the second question around the issue of visiting multiple no fishing zones on one patrol. Did you want to, are you able to explain on that one?
Yeah, for we have in Gökova Bay, we have, for example, two different MPAs, marine protected areas, which is first called is Akyaka and the other is Akbük. And our center is in Akyaka. So the boats, the marine rangers start patrolling from Akyaka to go Akbük, you know. But when they start to enter the data to SMART, after changing the MPA, the SMART count the patrolling as 2 instead of 1. Actually, it is 1. This is not good, you know, the data collection. For the data collection, this can be misleading.
I think there's a relatively quick fix for that if you just added a multi-site patrol to the options, but maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Monica's just sent through a reply from Julio, who I think has come back, but I think his internet connection is a bit poor. So just picking up on the fisher surveillance issue, Julio said they were happy basically to have the VMS devices fitted because of the SOS service provision, and they were much more receptive, not about being tracked, but because it provided them with some sense of security for their families while they're at sea. So I guess it's a nice added benefit of having those devices fitted. A question from Tongi. Are there any particular recommendations or examples of a case where SMART has been rolled out, starting with the coastal communities before it's been promoted or used and picked up by the relevant MPA authorities? I don't know if anybody in particular would like to speak about that. I don't know if that's applicable in Belize or Zangir.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Julio.
Hi. Yeah, here in Belize, we actually started with the government. However, the getting up and running with it wasn't as effective as when we started with the NGOs. With the non-governmental organizations, it actually started very, very quickly because, you know, they want accountability, transparency, and efficiency faster because it helps them to be able to fundraise better. And so with the NGOs in picking up SMART, they actually were very influential in getting the government to implement SMART, because now the NGOs had a nice data set. They were able to show the government, you know, this is what we're doing. This tool we're using is at your disposal. Why is it that you're not using it? And they were showing showing up at meetings with real nice maps of where they're patrolling, real nice tables of what they're seeing, what they're not seeing, how they're acting in terms of a specific threat. And that actually motivated the government to then say, you know what, oh, we need to adopt this at a national level. And therefore, in 2016, we got the government of Belize to adopt it at both the terrestrial protected areas and the marine protected areas. And so, again, it allows you to be able to quantify your effort. And I think for fundraising purposes, that's very good.
Great, thanks, Julio. Jonas, did you want to say something from the Philippines?
Yeah. Hey, Tanvi.
Go ahead.
Yes. The case in the Philippines, it's a co-management approach basically between government, municipal government, and local communities. And smart users are enforcement team from the local communities. But from the presentation earlier, the problem was the lack of ongoing support to the local communities using smart, basically because of all of the problems of pandemic and resources. Friends explained in our presentations. And also there wasn't, as she said earlier, we failed to use the Smart Connect just because it was easier for them to bring the phone to the municipal mayor office where the desktop is based and just upload data. But then there was a problem with the desktop and everything shut down and we lost data. And that's what the problem basically with the community. And that's why it is a better idea, of course, to use the Smart Connect. And that's what we are thinking about right now. But in the Philippines, it's big user of mobile phone and Facebook and stuff like that. So they are used to use mobile phone in the communities, and that wasn't the problem, basically. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Jonas. I have maybe a general question to the group, which I think is something that comes up a lot for people considering using smart. But if anyone's got any recommendations around the types of device that are most robust for the marine environment, are people using waterproof devices, or are they using the little waterproof bags to put a normal device in? If anyone's got any thoughts on that, please jump in.
I can just speak for like general sort of device recommendations from the partnership is to try to, I mean, the way that devices are going these days, you can get ruggedized devices that are military spec and IP68 rated. So the highest, waterproof rating that you can get these days for technology relatively cheaply. We don't really endorse any particular device, but we've had pretty good luck with Blackview phones. They're pretty robust, really well sealed. You can't change out the battery on them, but that's kind of is what it is. Some of the bigger ones of those are around $350 US, and those have worked really well. Obviously, there's other concerns in the marine environment, like salt air and things like that. So I defer to the marine practitioners, but I would just say, generally speaking, you want to try to get the highest grade of ruggedization that you can with the budget that you have.
Yep, and in Bangladesh, we are also using the Blackview, and also at the beginning, we used CT5 and CT7, those two models. And all this rugged phone work very well. Until now, it's give very good support to the stuff, as it has a long-lasting battery inside. And we provided solar charger so that they can charge in the field with the power banks, and then they can connect the power bank with the mobile phone, because in Bangladesh, actually, they go out for usually 5 to 7 days in the field. And Sundarban is all of it's waterways inside. For traveling, you have to travel with the boat. So there is no scope to come back for charging. So the charging system is important for the marine too, if they have like overnight patrolling there.
Great, yeah, that's helpful. I can also share some experience from Turkey. So in my previous role at FFI, I was managing the Turkey work, and I helped set up the Smart instance there. And when we started Smart, we were using a kind of much cheaper Android phone, and the issue wasn't about its kind of robustness, it was more that the accuracy of the GPS was not good enough. So the boats were patrolling, and we couldn't tell if the fishers were being in an illegal area or not, because the GPS wasn't accurate enough. So something else to consider when you're looking at device options is the sensitivity of that GPS. Drew, I wonder if you would speak to the question we had quite early on around data ownership. So is the information collected in SMART available for anyone to use, or is there a process to request the data? I think that's quite an important point just to clarify.
Sure, yeah. And it depends on exactly what your question is asking, but the key thing with SMART is that, you know, it's a database, you download it, and the data are owned by whoever manages the database. So, you know, it's no different than if you had like you have Microsoft Word. Microsoft doesn't own your Word documents; they're on your computer, right? So let's just say protected area A gets configured. They have a SMART database. Whoever manages that database, whoever's in charge of the database, the admin for protected area A, they would set the permission structure for all of the staff that work there. So, you know, admin can do anything. There's data entry. There's you know, various steps in between that where, you know, you can enter data but not change things. You can run queries but not change things. You can change things. You know, it depends on sort of what level you want to put people at. But then sharing the data outside of the structure, outside of the system, is entirely dependent on the site. So you can download queries, you can export queries, you can share them that way. You can export reports, you can share that things that way. You can export raw data and you can share those. If you use Smart Connect, you can set up basically the equivalent of like a public facing link, and you can make those time sensitive. So you could share a link, let's say, you know, you want you know, the minister asks you for, you know, show me all of the fisheries infractions from the first quarter of 2021. You can run that report and send a link to them that will last for like a week, or it could be a permanent link, you know, depending on what you want to do. And so all of those steps, you know, all of the ways that the data come out of the system and into the world are entirely dependent on whoever's managing the system and how they want to share the data. So if you want to keep it entirely locked down, then it's entirely locked down. It's wholly dependent on how you want to approach it in the workflows of the site.
Great, many thanks. We have got time for a few more questions, so please feel free to just drop them in the chat. I guess I thought there was a really interesting point in the Philippines case study around the government turnover and how that might affect the SMART implementation. I'm just wondering if there's any feedback or thoughts on that from any of the other speakers around what you find to be the big barrier, I guess, in terms of engaging the government and how you've overcome that. Sangeer, Julio, or Janke, sorry. No thoughts. It's easy.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, just picking up on something in the Philippines presentation that I found really interesting, that they kind of struggled when the government turned over. So when there was an election and the people that they trained and invested in moved on to go somewhere else, and whether you've had any similar issues and how you've overcome that.
Yeah, it's, I think, similar across the world.
Yeah.
Government officers has to transfer from one place to another. It's in Bangladesh, after each 3 years, they transfer from one place to another, and sometime after 1 year of working in one stations. For Sundarbans, actually, that's why we trained about half of the people till now. And whenever there is any new recruitment, like young one, we target to provide training to them, because they have the greater chance to provide support to SMART for a longer period than the oldest one, because they will be retiring, or maybe they will transfer to other areas where they feel comfortable, and they are less interested to doing SMART than the young generation. So we are trying to do this in this way. And in Bangladesh, actually, if we consider forest department, the beauty is that though the trained people are transferring to other areas, but the Bangladesh Forest Department is trying to implement smart in many other protected areas. Like they are playing with 13 already. They are learning that how to do the terrestrial smart, and also in near future we'll do marine smart into of the marine protected areas, and at that time this training will be useful, so far I believe. That's, I think, all over the world.
Yeah, great, thanks. And I think it also comes back to the question that Tongi raised earlier around how you play it, I guess, when you have a community-led implementation or an NGO-led implementation that you're then trying to embed in government structures for sustainability. So just that balance of making sure everything is context specific and as sustainable as possible is always a challenge. Monica's been really great at dropping in the link to the SMART community forum into the chat box. And many of these discussions have come up there, particularly around devices. So if you have a specific question, then please join that group and join that discussion. And Drew, you wanted to add something on the device question.
Yeah, I think so. One thing that we've all run into, and we just actually wrote a chapter on smart use and specifically flagged this in the smart chapter, is that the devices are coming down in price, and that's great. And Android is available and generally pretty stable throughout the world. But concurrent to that, we've also seen that these devices, now that they're mass produced and they're coming out and they're always changing, the stability of the devices and the sort of reliability of the devices is really variable. So just case in point, I mean, we just sent seven Blackview units, all the same unit, to a new site in Uganda. 5 of them work great, 2 of them, there's just something weird, and they can collect data, but the base map isn't showing. And sometimes you could be standing in the same spot. One thing gets a GPS point in a minute, another one takes 10 minutes. And there's really doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. There's no way. I mean, someone was specifically asking about, can you look at the sensitivity of the GPS? No, you can't really, which is what's difficult. You could, even if you buy 2 units at the same time, probably from the same batch, you might have totally different experiences with the different devices. The one thing that I think is good is that increasingly they're taking signals from multiple satellite systems, so it's not just GPS, so that allows a little bit more flexibility around the world. And then just one recommendation I would have for everybody as you go through this, if you check out the mobile manual, we'll drop a link to that in the chat. There are specific device specifications that we recommend, device configurations that we recommend. So things like shutting off the Google scanning, if you're not using Wi-Fi and stuff like that, you're going to significantly increase your battery life, but then you're also going to just let it focus only on the satellite. It's not going to try to pull from cell towers or local Wi-Fi or anything like that. That set of configurations is something that we've kind of collectively as practitioners put together, and I think it's our best attempt to try to standardize, across Android devices. So if you do this for all your devices, and it might be in this menu on an Ule phone and this menu on a Blackview, or depending on what Android thing you have, but if you can do all these things, we found that's probably like the best way to get your device to work. In a sort of standardized fashion, despite it being not standardized.
Great, thanks. I also just wanted to pick up on something that was raised in the Turkey presentation. So the fact that in order for the government to respond to an illegal incident, if they're not on the patrol, they need a GPS referenced image. So obviously taking the photo in the smartphone, it's linked to the GPS of the device. I'm just wondering if there's a way to attach that GPS attribute directly to the photo. Is that possible?
Yeah, so the phone, the photo that's taken in with a specific observation, that the geolocation is attached to that. The one thing that, I mean, it depends on how it's needed. Obviously, you can go in and you can pull the photo out of Smart. You won't be able to go into the photo metadata and attach the coordinate to that, I don't think. But you could create a report that pulls a specific photo and the specific geolocation and put that in, just a single sheet. And one thing that's coming in Smart 7, which is really cool, is the ability to have dynamic images in reports, and to have specific types of observations pull in. So the use case that I'm familiar with is that we're going to have a signature box for this site we're working with in Namibia. So folks will go out, the investigators will record a bunch of data, and then they sign, and then the person that they're speaking to sign in the box. And then we're going to be able to pull those signatures directly into the report, just as if we had a paper sheet and they both signed on the sheet. So that's really exciting. I don't know exactly how that's going to look yet because it actually hasn't been delivered. We're going to hopefully get that delivered in the next couple weeks. But I think that's going to be a really useful tool for this type of, we took a picture of A, we need to make sure A is in the report with, X, Y, and Z specific metadata.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you, Drew. Right, I think on that note, we are coming to the end. I hope this has been a really useful session for you all. I've certainly found it really interesting. Thank you so much to all of our speakers, Drew and Jonathan, and all the case study presenters. Really fascinating to get that kind of flavour of how SMART can be used in quite different ways in the marine world. So thank you so much for that. The SMART partnership remains available. If anybody has any questions specifically about implementation or about the software or about devices, there's the SMART Community Forum that you would find a very useful tool for that as well. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much, everybody, for your attention today. And hopefully this was helpful and will be useful, and there will be many more implementations of SMART in the marine environment to come. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.
Thank you.